Well, hey there. Well, we've taken care of a starting problem, a charging problem. Now it's time to take care of a fuel problem. This fuel pump has a pretty constant drip when the engine's running, and that's generally not a good thing unless you're planning on going out in a blaze of glory. So we probably want to fix that. I think first I'll start it and show you the problem. I'm pretty sure it's the diaphragm that's leaking, and then we'll pull the fuel pump out of there and get to rebuilding it. It's pretty serious, wouldn't you say? We'll get her fixed up. Pop these lines loose real quick. How long? How long? How long? To the point of no return. No return. Come on. You've got to come out of there right now. Thank you. Now, I'm just hoping I am not going to find cracked casting on this pump. Oh! Hey now, feller, come on. Come on. Oh. Okay. I mean, if you really want to play, I can play, boy. Oh, well. Yeah. Must have used the big glue stick for that son of a gun. Alright, I'm going to get the bowl off first so I don't break that. Now I think I just maybe lucked out with this. I got a little ahead of myself and I ordered a kit for a 38 Buick Special. And didn't even consider the fact that maybe the pump wasn't original. And well, when I went to take it off, I noticed it was quite a different style. Originally it would have been a different style, while this is hanging down to the side. And I don't have a Buick book, but I went to my Chevy parts books, and previous to 1938, Chevrolet used the same thing. and all of the important parts what do I want to say? Change over to this next style of pump. The diaphragm, the gasket for the bowl, the pin, the spring. I think I'll be just fine with the parts I got. And luckily, on the Buick Special, they used the same pumps that Chevrolet did. So that's one on me. But let's get this diaphragm out of here. This is exactly the kind of pump that I wanted to find for the 48 Chevy. And I just need to get on eBay and look for that. Still have time. I just think they're cool. So evidently this has been upgraded at some point in the past. And I'm pretty sure the fuel was coming out of the weep hole. Here, I'll show you where that is in a second. Right there. Pretty sure the fuel was coming out of there, which means we've got a hole in our diaphragm, or a crack or something. And I smelled the engine oil, and it was okay, so I don't think gas was getting through into the block. Well, we may need to move over to the vise here. There we go. Ooh, she's crispy. Okay, we'll get that unhooked next. I just really wanted to look at this diaphragm. I don't see anything obvious right now. But let's get this pin out and then we'll be able to unhook the arm, pop that diaphragm out. I gave it a light cursory whack with the hammer and it came halfway out. So, sorry about that. Okay. There we go. Stubborn little thing, aren't you? Okay, you gotta treat this just like a brake shoe hold down clamp. Turn it to the slot there. There we go. Come on. Turn that. There you go. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but you can see hairline cracks right there. Just a result of too many years flexing. Could be modern gas deteriorated it as well. Well, that's about it. I'm waiting on a different product to try in my ultrasonic cleaner. Hopefully it will clean this up really well. I'll of course get the gasket material off the flange there, get everything cleaned up, and then I have a decision to make about whether I want to use original style valves, strain, or the strainer that came in it, or your conventional strainer, things like that. But anyway, all the gaskets look correct, so should be no problem. So gentlemen, I'm going to be honest, this fuel strainer or fuel filter is a new one on me. I looked the patent up. It is 2159196. That comes up as, I forget the company or the individual that patented it, from 1937, listed as a metal plate filter. I can find no other information on it, and I would really like to know if any of you out there know any more about it. Let me know. But I couldn't find it. It's very interesting, very thin layers of brass, and when you touch it, it's like when you touch it, it's almost like going against the teeth on a hacksaw. There's castellations all the way around, inside and outside. You can see that. And they're very sharp on the corners. And I don't know if that comes into effect of it grabbing foreign material. Very interesting. I think I will clean it up with everything else and reinstall it. And I will give the owner your typical strainer. But yeah, I think I'm going to reuse it. Undoubtedly, obviously, much more expensive to manufacture than a typical strainer. Whether they were not as effective or just cheaper, you know, who knows why they didn't stick with that. But anyway, I think it's a cool item. And while I've got you here, I wish I would have mentioned it on the previous video on this Buick when we went through the generator and the voltage regulator. If any of you out there, especially in the Kansas general region, know of a alternator generator starter tester stand, get in touch with me, especially if it's you know, if it's for sale and not terribly expensive. I don't care how old it is, as long as it works, or if it just takes a little TLC to get it working, that's great. But I would really like to get one of those. So what I've ended up with, thanks to a viewer, is SharperTech's Shellac Buster. It is rather expensive, but they say it just practically lasts forever. If you need more, you just add water to it. When it gets too dirty, run it through a cheesecloth, clean it out. So time will tell how this thing goes. They say only leave it in here 5 to 7 minutes. So I guess that's what we're going to do. I got all the small parts in a little glass cold cream deal there. And the bowl. These things. The filter in there. All my plates zip tied together. Okay, it's been 7 minutes. We're going to see how we did. Well, the outside of the castings are very clean. I can see where this was really heavily deposited. Really heavily deposited. That's interesting. Where it had really heavy deposits, it's still there. Can be easily wiped off though. It took a lot of rust off. Although not completely everything, you know, I just don't know what to expect. Really cleaned the brass off. It said on their website if you leave it more than 5 to 7, it'll make the castings cloudy. I don't know that I cared that much on that issue. I may be interested in just running it, doing another 5 or 7 minute run and see what it does. Hardware's looking pretty good. Okay, I'm going to go wash these off with water. That was a second 5-minute duration. And we'll look at them in a bit. Well, you can see by the condition of the stuff, it did something. Overall, I think this is going to work pretty good. Now, their recommendations, I believe SharperTech sells ultrasonic cleaners, and I'm sure they are far better cleaners than this cheap eBay made in Wong Fu or whatever. So maybe it would be understandable that you would have to run it longer in one of these versus one of their good ones. I don't know. Having said that, all I did was took this apart, put the parts in the basket, ran it, no heat. I did it for 7 minutes, checked them, did it for 5 more minutes, so 12 minutes total, and then rinsed it off with water, and that's what you're seeing. I wiped them off with a towel or a rag to dry them off, and I blew the castings out with air. I did not scrub or brush or pre-clean anything. Now this that had the really heavy brown varnish in it, I did come in and I wiped it out a little bit, and it easily came off. There's just a little residual in there. I have no doubt if I left them in there for half an hour, that would be completely gone, as well as the rust. Most of the rust is gone on that, as well as the screw heads. The brass really brightened up, so overall I think it's a product with very much promise, if not already, if it hasn't already proven itself. I think I'll keep using it and try it in a carburetor very soon. But for now, let's get this thing back together. Okay, I believe I have everything cleaned that I'm going to clean. The screws I wire wheeled and just shot them with Rust-Oleum clear to keep the bare metal look. And then my sealing surfaces for the diaphragm, hit those on the belt sander as you saw it, and I don't want to go too far and sand too much, but then there is some pitting. So I'm just going to do a light coat of Permatex to fill in the pits. Let's see if we can get it. wants to bend. May have to find something to go over that. There we go. Turn that. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
Okay, you've been a naughty little.
Need to get this hook hooked in that slot in there. Should be it. You cotton picking little dickens. There we go. In. Well, that's going to do it on the workbench. I like it. Everything looks good. Let's go throw it back on the car. When in doubt, Permatex. Getting a little piggy with it. It's kind of like being jiggy with it, but messier, I guess. Threads are open on the inside of the block, so we're going to Permatex the bolts as well. Just like so. Well, we're going to get these long-winded things back in there. Start one. Okay, come on now. Trying to bend my arm the way an arm should not bend. There we go. That's one. So keep motor oil from leaking out past the threads. What, I'm going to use my extension here. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. Get the gasket to obey. Come on, comply, comply. No, you must fall. Come on now. Get in there. You're a bear. What's locking up here? Kind of bolt in just a hole. Be tight. What is it about this bolt? Oh, nice. There is just no room. Come on. Turn. Turn. I'm about ready to get this battery out of here. This is ridiculous. You know, I've always wanted those little, one of those little palm ratchets, and I have just never bought one. And yeah, I could get the air ratchet out or something, but goodness, for 2 bolts, really? We're gonna get her. Come on. Oh, got no place to put my arms. Oh, this is amazing. Torque. And torque. Okay, she should be ready to go. Got her all hooked up. I am going to start it on the fuel that's in the bowl, carburetor bowl, and hopefully it'll self-prime by the time that runs out. And we'll see if we got any leaks. Sorry if the camera rattles how I got it mounted. We'll see. Well, I did it. I just went ahead and did it. I'm in trouble now. My back was flat up against the wall. 5 o'clock this morning, I woke up and decided I was going to do something about it today. The owner's been after me. It's just been one of those things that happens every now and then in this hobby. So originally, this 38 Buick battery would have been, I don't know, 14, 16, 18 inches long, but very narrow, 6-volt battery. And somewhere along the way, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't know, when an owner converted it to the same style battery case, but inside were 2 6-volt batteries side by side. So they were half size. And all hooked together with a series parallel switch. You can watch the very first video on this car. But basically that switches between those 2 types of circuits. So you can run the same equipment, 6-volt equipment, but when you hit the key, it sends 12 volts to the starter. Well, the car came to me not starting. That was the main issue. And I found out the front half of that special battery, which the new owner had to replace, so he spent about $500 on it. It was hooked up backwards on the front half. So I discharged it, recharged it, and got the polarity correct again on both sides. And it was working great up until you saw me try and start it for the fuel pump. And then nothing. Shot again. So I sent the battery back to the man that made it. I'm not going to mention any names. It's not what I'm about here. But it's been there probably 2 months at least. And I've started calling them the last 4 or 6 weeks, every single week on Monday or Tuesday. And it's, yep, we'll send it out tomorrow, or yeah, we'll send it out Wednesday. So I wait the rest of the week, never shows up, and another week's gone by. So let me get you into the engine compartment and show you what I've done. But I will say this is why I really advocate for original equipment. You are just not dependent on, often, most of the time, you are not dependent on special equipment for modifications you have done. It is so much simpler and easier to just keep it original and just enjoy a 38 Buick like it would have been in 1938. My opinion, that's my love of old cars, that's where that is. But and I really advise the original owner, let's just go back to 6 volts. I'll make sure all your connections and grounds are good and tight. We will put the correct size battery cables on and make sure you have a good 6-volt battery in there. And yes, it cranks slower, but man, it cranks and it starts. It will not be a problem. And he just did not want to, he didn't have ears for that. He just believes he needs 12 volts to that starter. And I admit, it turns a whole lot faster, but it's not necessary. But that's okay. His money, his deal. So let's see what I did. Now, unfortunately, my parts store only had one 6-volt on the shelf. It's a nice Interstate, so I robbed the other Continental out of the 48 Chevy. And I am willing to do whatever the owner wants to do. I'm going to put that double 6-volt battery in his hands. he can deal with the company because that's his choice. You know, he's adamant that's what he wants. I'm going to let him deal with it. I just move this battery box wall out a little bit so I could get these down in there. They're actually sitting on a couple pieces of wood. I don't like how close it is to the engine now, but we do have clearance. But there you go, 2 conventional 6-volt batteries side by side. And if the owner gets his special battery back, I will gladly refund him for these and take them back. I can always use a 6-volt battery. If he wants 2 matching ones, if he wants to stay with this, I've already ordered another one from my parts store, and I will gladly exchange this one. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. It's just, I've got to do something at this point. But we turn the key on. Make sure she's in neutral. Yep, and it spins nice. I mean, she's ready to go to town. So, as with the 48 Chevy, I'm going to pressure up the fuel and get fuel through that pump and into the carburetor, just to make it easier, a whole lot less cranking and priming and cursing and sweating. We'll just make sure we get fuel there, and hopefully some up into the carburetor. It's probably, I'm sure there's some in there, but it's probably down by now. And yeah, so I'm going to set you up here so you can watch the fuel fill. Let's get to it. Alright, so I've got the rag stoofed it up in the neck here, my blow gun, and we're just going to try to pour some fuel. Alright, the bowl is full. I don't see any leaks so far. So I'll see if it cranks. I'll try to leave you here. Hopefully this, you might shake, rattle, and roll just a little bit, but we'll try to keep you. Well, that ended up being a little bit harder than I thought it would be. Evidently the bowls were completely dry, so I kept putting pressure to the tank, and then I primed it a little bit and we fired up. Well, let's go take a look at that fuel pump. Alright, there it is. Not much to see, I admit, but I don't see any leaks. Certainly not what was happening before. So I call that a done deal. Time to put the side back on, and I think we'll go for a drive. Well, that's it. We're done. It's running good again on the rebuilt fuel pump. By the way, that fuel pump is most likely from the 50s. It is not original equipment. Matches, I believe, a Chevrolet fuel pump from back in the day. It was our last job, however, on this car. I am going to drive it, wash it off, and then call the owner and they can come get it. So thanks for joining me on this one. If you haven't seen the rest of the projects we've done on it, go back and check those out, and then we'll get something new in. So God bless you guys. Thanks again. See you next time.
Here comes another headed for trouble. In slow motion, we see the crack up in detail. Yes, there's a man in the driver's seat, but for how long, nobody knows.